We share insights to enhance our family's wealth plans. And I'm your host, Amari White. And my guest today is Nelly Faghani. Did I butcher that,
Yep,
Nelly? I hope.
Faghani. No, not at all. It's perfect.
And Nelly, I had a fascinating interaction. I've met Nelly some months ago and had the pleasure of connecting our minds, and her fascinating work as the owner and the instructor of Pelvic Health Solutions, PHS. PHS is an evidence-based pelvic health teaching company, and it was founded in 2010. And it trains clinicians across Canada in the biopsychosocial and pain science integration is the core of their business. PHS, widely recognized in Canada as Canada's largest pelvic health teaching company. And Nelly is the founder of this institution. Her days of pelvic health date all the way back to the 1990s. We are entirely thrilled to have Nelly here. And really what we want to do today is really want to translate how PHS scaled from their clarity to their curriculum to their consistency, how they deliver to their clients, really how that parallels in a lot of ways to the work we do here at Family First Advisors in our planning execution and our business and financial wealth plans. So with that, welcome today, Nelly, and I'm really excited to have you here. Thanks for joining me.
Honored to be here. Thank you, Amari.
Awesome. Well, Nelly, we have a lot to unpack, so I want to get into it before our time gets, we know how much we like to share ideas, and our time always gets away from us. But take us back, start us from Genesis, late 1990s in pelvic health. Wasn't widely taught. Like, what was a problem that you saw that pushed you to build PHS?
Yeah, so before PHS, there was only really a handful of us, like physiotherapists in the Greater Toronto area treating pelvic dysfunction. Yet these conditions are incredibly common and rarely talked about. Patients deal with things like incontinence, pelvic organ prolapse, or pelvic pain, and it profoundly affects their quality of life. And there simply weren't enough trained physiotherapists to support them. Before PHS, there were few training opportunities in Canada, so if clinicians wanted to take courses in pelvic health, they had to leave the country, and that created barriers like cost, travel, accessibility, and ultimately it meant fewer practitioners getting trained and fewer patients receiving treatment. So we started off with one course, so really small, one room, 8 clinicians. And the focus was on practical, immediately applicable content, really grounded in the evidence, but designed for that real clinical setting. Very grassroots, no grand strategy, just a desire to solve a problem that was right in front of us. And the response was just overwhelming. It was so well received. People wanted more, so we kept going. It's really how it started. Solution to a clear need. The growth came because the need was real.
Right. So you realized there was no teaching of this going on. This was really a body of work that was just not being propagated. There was no structure. There was no way to grow that base, and you decided that you would just pioneer that.
Something like that, yes, indeed.
Well, I find that really amazing. We solve problems for our clients, but they're quite let's call them age-old problems. There are a lot of hammers out there for the same nail, but of course, it really requires a lot of customization in our problem solving. The definition of the problem is it's personal. It becomes very so that kind of solution really is. You've built a world that didn't exist before, Nelly. Is that an overstatement?
Well, there were courses available. They just weren't very often offered, and people had to travel away. So we wanted to offer more courses, more flexibility, and have more options for everyone here in Canada.
Okay. Well, a defining move was building the framework, the curriculum. Not just classes, I would imagine, but really embedding the biopsychosocial science and the pain science across topics and formats. Why was that so critical?
It was important because we wanted practitioners to practice evidence-based care that did include a trauma-informed approach through a biopsychosocial lens, right? So it's important so that patients receive the right care, evidence-based care. And we also wanted courses that had good quality, consistency, and flexibility for practitioners.
Right, right. Awesome. And then, I mean, I would imagine even the quality of the course curriculum, like maintaining that would have been, it really, again, maps on very directly to how we, face and we serve our clients. I mean, we really need to have a framework that's really strong and well and coherent and repeatable to be able to create that repeatable operating framework. I mean, we have operating cadence with our clients in terms of our, the frequency of our conversations. We have capital allocation rules so there is quite a bit of build that needs to be, and the rigor of that build and how, it really dictates how much scale you can get out of that. I really appreciate that. Tell me, one thing I admire about PHS is you guys seem to really close that knowing doing gap, is what I call it. I mean, when people have information, but they don't actually act on the information, and you seem to be able to inspire and get them to do this, Nelly. I don't know if that's my perception from my faraway observation, but you seem to be pairing teaching with mentorship and resources so that clinicians can actually implement. How does that look in practice? If that's true, how do you do it?
So I'm not sure exactly I understand your question, but I can say that really as a physiotherapist without really a business background, a lot of Pelvic Health Solutions operational choices were rooted in clinical experience, so not business strategy. I really wanted to make sure that our clinicians received a very thorough, comprehensive, flexible offerings that are going to help make clinical changes in practice. I mean, that's one of the reasons I stayed active as a clinician, seeing patients. So I'm not just spewing out research, but I'm translating the research on how it's applicable in clinical practice. And mentorship is really important because it's not just about learning a specific technique, but understanding why you're doing it. And clinicians may need support, so mentorship was really key.
So you still have very much involved in the practice of the preaching, not just the principle and the theory and the science of your work. Is that
Absolutely.
And do you feel like your platform, like your firm and people who work with you, they take that a similar approach, that they are still practicing what they're preaching, what they're doing? No one's becoming academic only in a sense.
Yeah, even most of our academic and research presenters still have a clinical practice, and our core instructors continue to see patients. We all still continue to attend courses and international conferences, but we're really able to make all of that applicable in the clinical setting.
Right. No, that's awesome. That is awesome. Well, again, I mean, that is our ethos in our world. We need, we're constantly holding the hands of our clients and essentially, somewhat, I like to say, pleasantly putting pressure on them to do the things that we have agreed we need to do. But it's just so hard to do while you're, building a plane while you're flying, this thing called life, and you're trying to keep everything going at the same pace. So we find that a lot of what we do, it feels like just, execution coaching, in a sense, whether it's, it's your tax roadmap, or it's your, figuring how you're going to take income from your corporation, or any of these million things that need to be done. I think that practice, closing that knowing gap is a big part of our world. So tell me then,
Well, they're so lucky to have your support. They're lucky to have your support because we can't all be experts in what we do. So we need to rely on experts to help guide us.
I'll tell our audience, we're getting a little bit, we do have time, Nelly, so I'll tell our audience why we really connected well, because Nelly's business and both Nelly and my practice in life really intersected. So, of course, we're talking about pelvic health. And I always make a mess of this word, but it's a
Kegel
K-E.
exercise.
Yeah. So I have been practicing um, a practicing Kegel exercise person for a couple of years. And of course, this is the work that Nelly does. So we were able to really put all of this into practice. We, found a lot of commonality, a lot of reasons to share. So I'm Nelly in touche. I know that the people who you are serving are being well served in your world. So let me ask you quick, because I do want to, I just want to really get a sense of where you are now with PHS, where you think you're going, and what you think you might need. But before we get there, as you scaled and you sort of did your quality, like how have you maintained the quality of the curriculum? The curriculum has grown, your firm has grown. How has it been from a quality?
Yeah, what's really important to us that education isn't about, like I mentioned, just learning techniques. We do teach through this trauma-informed biopsychosocial lens, which emphasizes inclusion, patient safety, strong clinical reasoning. So it's about helping practitioners understand what they're doing, why they're doing something, not just how to do it. And the education extends also beyond the clinicians. Our website provides a large amount of free education for patients alongside a directory of trained professionals so patients can actually find qualified care in their communities. So Pelvic Health Solutions not only like we have different visions and missions, including training clinicians, but educating patients and hopefully bringing them together.
That's awesome. That is
Yeah.
awesome. So how do you then, like, do you have a challenge to standardize your curriculum? Like, how do you manage the compliance of that? Like, I don't know if I'm
Mm.
asking, you know, so like when we make investment plans for our clients, they have to be in accordance with compliant framework of their risk, and there needs to be this sort of check and balance that sort of makes sure that that portfolio is suitable for that investment. For instance, how do you stay compliant with the curriculum against your compliance benchmarks? I guess is my
Yeah. So we prioritize training educators who share the same clinical philosophy. We make sure we maintain small group learning environments and, of course, continuously update course content as the evidence evolves. So I'd say those are the main things that we focus on to make sure compliance. And then, there's different learning styles, and we try to gear towards various learning styles and flexibility of in-person courses, but also online courses that really happened during COVID. So that allowed us to get online to be able to give access to people, and now even hybrid courses. So I think it's like about maintaining a standard of quality in the education, which means updating the research to make sure that it's relevant and clinically applicable, continuously training our instructors and teaching assistants, and just allowing flexibility and accessibility to whomever's taking it. So nationally and internationally, we have registrants from all around the world.
So how do they find you now, Nelly? If someone's listening to our podcast here, like, like what do you want to leave them with that matters most about what we've talked about? And, who's your population? Why does it matter?
So, I think patience, the pelvic floor, I know you're aware of the pelvic floor and Kegel exercises, but these are muscles that people don't really talk about, or the dysfunctions that come with when they are not working well. So for patients to go on the website, learn about where the pelvic floor is, because these muscles silently do their job without us much thinking about them until they're not working. So educate yourself on the common, very common conditions, as I mentioned a few before, have very conservative treatments that are very effective. So that's for patients. And for clinicians, just going to pelvichealthsolutions.ca, looking at the variety of courses that we offer. And if it's within their scope of practice, we'd love to see you on some courses.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Well, I'm so happy that we did this, Nelly. I really appreciate this. Really, though, a lot of my clients and my audience will know that we don't talk about wealth unless we talk about health. And so this is why, we have intersected in such a, organic way. And really, this is meant for listeners and anyone to really, if this resonates with you, if you're an owner, you're, individual, you're looking for clarity about what, how your health can be up spiraled, how can you level up on things that you don't know that will have grand effect for both your health and wealth. Yeah, we are happy to give you as much information as we can and help you to close that knowing doing gap. So, Nelly, I want to thank you so much for your clarity, for your framework, for the mentorship that you provide through PHS. The entire platform is amazing. You've grown something from a thought to really North America wide offering through, here in the US, really impressive stuff, and really admire how your principles of compounding and the results that you're creating. So thanks for being here. And until next time, audience, think and grow rich and preserve wealth and make right choices that profit not just your pocket, but actually your being. Thanks for being here. All right, Nelly, thanks again.
Thank you.
Okay, think it's stopping. Can you hear me? Okay.